We'd like to discuss the importance of communicating the strategic value of your patent portfolio, a presentation first given at the Concero Global IP Management Forum on 7th June 2021. I'm Nigel Schweitzer, CEO and one of the co-founders at Cipher.
Thanks, Nigel. And I'm Niall McMahon, Head of Research at Cipher. Good to be here again.
One of the main things we presented were the key findings from our benchmarking survey conducted with IIM earlier this year. There were 5 main findings, all centered around the importance of getting high quality data for benchmarking, but not benchmarking in isolation, benchmarking for a reason. And those reasons are highlighted on the slide. They include patent strategy, competitive intelligence, importantly during these times of COVID, budget management, but for many other reasons also. The corporate patent owners that contributed to the survey stressed the importance of having benchmarking data. Quotes like from Andreas talking about the criticality of benchmarking data, and Gilbert Wong at Facebook talking about how it assists in communication. And that's a theme we come back to a few times as we go through this presentation. The second key finding was talking about who was listening. And the answer is it's not just the traditional head of IP and head of patents, although you can see that they are a large customer for this data with some of those answers as could be expected, being in the high 80%, but you can see the board and the CFO and the CTO showing a very significant interest in this data also. But once you understand the why and the who, very important that you focus on the what. I think it's increasingly becoming irrelevant to simply look at the total size of your portfolio. I have a large portfolio. It doesn't deliver strategic value. It doesn't communicate the return on investment of the portfolio. And the top answer here is that 75% believe that analyzing a portfolio at the technology level remains the most important reason. And you can see that comment coming through from the quote from the IP lead at a major European semiconductor company, who says that technology analysis is the only way to achieve an apples for apples comparison. So once you know what level to do it, what metrics should you measure? The survey analyzed 9 metrics, but the top 5 are highlighted in red. Portfolio size, possibly counterintuitively, bearing in mind my earlier comments, come out as number 1, but possibly because it's easiest. But other metrics are also showing strongly, like geography and age. And I particularly like to focus on quality, because that's a discussion that's going on actively in the market today. The quality score used in Cipher is PBIX, which is a combination of citation and geography data. Importantly there, the quote from Givaudan is that looking at one isolated Patrick metric has little analytic power. And so looking at metrics in the round is significantly more important. For me, the most important finding from the survey is this one, that despite the fact it being so important to benchmark your portfolio in order to communicate its strategic value, over half of respondents are saying it's too expensive or time consuming, suggesting that what's needed is more automation and efficiency. And those time and money challenges can be solved using classification, as Niall will go on to describe.
Thanks, Nigel. I mean, as we've talked about many times, good data analysis really enables intelligence to address a number of objectives for IP professionals and for patent professionals. It includes a whole range of things, including competitor analysis, threat analysis, budget management, pruning, or for others, technology screening. But in simple terms, it's really about communicating the value and impact that your patent portfolio provides and enabling the best in class, most effective communication around that. So how to make sense of all the data that's out there? Well, as you can see from this slide, there's a few steps that we need to work through to organize the data so as it can be sliced through in a useful way. I like to describe it as the data needs to be structured. Structuring the data is making sure that we have the connected groups or patent families that cover the same inventions but across different jurisdictions. Structuring also involves attaching the right meta tags, for example, patent status, is it granted, is it pending, is it expired, the geography, where has it been filed, the things like age, litigation activity, all that sort of stuff. Also quality, as Nigel talked a little bit about before, and there's a number of ways of looking at that. In terms of what I describe as cleansing, we also need to organize the ownership. Who owns which patent families? And most of the listeners in this will be quite familiar with the cleansing required to complete it. We have to adjust for acquisitions, divestments, subsidiaries, or even typo errors in the filings themselves. But with the data organized in this way, the final step here in this slide, as you can see, is to classify it. And classification by technology areas, as Nigel mentioned, provides the best link to generating the most actionable insight. You want to view the world through your custom technology taxonomy, through your own technology lens. And that is the technologies that are specifically relevant to your business or your organization's growth strategies. More traditional approaches using CPC codes or keyword search are done and used widely, but experience tells us that the best way to define technologies is by actually identifying examples. And that's what supervised machine learning is all about. That's where supervised machine learning comes into play. There's nothing black box about it. It's simply identifying examples and building training sets. That's done by humans. So if we just pausing to recap and revisit what we've discussed and going from data to insight, we have a load of data. It's structured, it's cleansed, it's classified, and that puts us now in a position to slice through it to get actionable intelligence that can be simply and easily presented and communicated. We're gonna walk you through some examples of how we can slice through the data, getting from data to insight. So we can screen by technologies, which of the most associated grants and applications, what's the relative pace of filing activity, and in which geographies have the inventions been protected. We can also do threat analysis, which companies have been on the offensive in specific technology areas and at the same time growing their portfolios. Also, who are the most active litigators? Company-specific analysis, for example. What does a company's portfolio profile look like across a specific technology area? We're showing quality here. We can also show age, looking at profiles across individual company portfolios. Also, what is the breakdown of a company's portfolio by multiple technology areas, and which parts of the portfolio are actually growing or shrinking? And of course, benchmarking. How do portfolios stack up against each other? Who owns the most? Who is the most active? And who ranks highest on metrics such as quality? The final slide there. So key then, as we're showing here, is to bring the right slices of data together to paint a picture and use that as the basis for internal or external communication around specific areas such as portfolio impact or strength. So in summary, structure, cleanse, classify the data, be clear on the problem you're trying to solve, and take the right slices of data to get actionable intelligence that can be easily communicated. Very simple. I'll pause here, and Nigel is going to pick up on some detail around building technology-based taxonomies to enable customized patent data classification.
Thanks, Niall. It's really important when we talk about classifiers that this sounds doable. It's not just hypothetical here. Cypher focuses on delivering your taxonomies, your DNA, inside a software system that can classify and organize the data. On the screen are just two examples of taxonomies, one in the area of financial services, the other in the area of automotive, just to illustrate how taxonomies work at levels. You can see on the right-hand side where the slide is pulling out e-clutch. That e-clutch sits in a taxonomy below automatic transmission, which sits below drivetrain. And that in itself can be broken down at many different levels. Really important to realize that the taxonomy design is a very human activity. We're not talking about dependency, as Niall referred to, on keywords or codes. We're asking for you, as the owner of that technology, to describe that technology as you understand it, and then to use a supervised machine learning system to map patterns to that description. The benefits of automated classification, having taken all those objectives that Niall outlined, is to automate the data collection to ensure that your data and your knowledge is embedded in the system, but most of all, to create efficiency around those activities which are essential but are standing in the way of benchmarking, as reported in that key finding, which referred to that 53% number. The system has to be capable of being customized for you, and it should avoid that hassle and aggravation of having to go and send out inquiries for data, which should always be on and should always be updating and should always be at your fingertips. We talked at the beginning about the importance of communicating the value. And as in one of our other webinars, we talked to Jared Engstrom about storytelling with data. And we said to him, what's the most important thing that you need from a data system and in your challenge of storytelling? His reply was empathy. And you can see why that might be true. If the audiences of yesteryear, the conventional audiences, are patent teams who have still, of course, still need the data, the audiences of today are different. They want the data for competitive intelligence. The C-suite want to understand what the 40 billion a year spent on patents, what value it's delivering for the organization. The CTO is looking for that relationship between innovation and patents, and it's now core to business strategy. Do we think that trend is going to continue? Yes, we do. We believe that the future will be external, eyes on innovation and technology trends. And we think it's only a short matter of time before investors and advisors are also asking the same question. So our overall message is to prepare your organization with accessible, cleansed, structured data to enable you to communicate the strategic value of patents. Thank you from me. And of course, thank you for Niall, who was so instrumental in putting together the research.
Thanks, Nigel.